Most animated movies are made for kids, so they can't get too heavy or intense. But did you know that nearly all of them have hidden scenes, jokes, and little details that only older viewers will actually catch? Moana 2 features a tiny, almost unnoticeable moment during a musical number between our favorite Wayfinder and her buddy Maui. They're doing all kinds of exercises throughout the song, including one that puts them in a very awkward position where Moana ends up directly behind Maui's wide open legs, staring right between them. As far as we know, the only thing he's wearing is a loincloth, so let's just hope he has some kind of underwear on underneath. Otherwise, poor Moana is getting a full view of the demigod's family jewels. And judging by the look on her face in that scene, there's definitely no underwear, and she saw something scarring.
Oh my God!
In Elemental, something similar happens when Wade suddenly changes form. Normally, he has a pretty average looking body, but then his watery form shifts and boom, he's ripped. Ember clearly liked what she saw. And we're not just talking about the muscles, you can tell she also took a quick peek at his butt. When Wade turns back to normal, she looks kind of disappointed. Luckily, that didn't stop them from becoming an awesome couple. And that's just the beginning, because we're diving into all 22 things only adults noticed in animated movies. So grab your popcorn. It's time for another episode of Cinewave. In Inside Out, things aren't any different. There are also subtle scenes that kids would never notice on their own, like when Joy's dress gets lifted a bit too much on the bottom. Fear seems to catch a glimpse of what's under it, then quickly looks away so she won't be embarrassed, even though she doesn't seem to notice it herself. Now that's a gentleman. Something you'll often find in movies like these is double meaning in the dialogue, and Zootopia has tons of it. Like in one of the first conversations between Judy and Nick, when she adds up all the fines he'd get if he were arrested for his crimes, Judy says, "I may be just a dumb bunny, but I'm good at multiplying." And while she's clearly talking about math, the truth is, bunnies are also really good at another kind of multiplying since they reproduce a lot. It's pretty obvious Nick caught that meaning too, based on the stunned look on his face. But there's another scene in the movie that's even weirder. It's when Judy and Nick visit a place where all of the animals walk around naked. In shows like Bluey or Looney Tunes, that's pretty normal, but Judy is horrified when she steps inside. It's basically like they walked into a nudist colony. Just imagine replacing all the animals with humans. Yeah, now it's creepy. Now let's switch from Disney to DreamWorks, because we absolutely have to talk about the double entendres in the Shrek movies. In the Ogre's second movie, Shrek, Donkey, and Puss in Boots get arrested by knights. It's kind of like a medieval cop show. The grown-up part comes when a knight finds a bag of catnip on Puss in Boots, and he quickly says, "That's not mine." Catnip is a harmless herb that cats go crazy for, but the joke makes it sound like he was carrying something a little more illegal. There's another moment like that in the first Shrek movie when Shrek sees the size of Lord Farquaad's castle. Farquaad is the villain, and asks Donkey if he thinks the Lord is compensating for something. Just like many adults in real life, Farquaad seems to be using money to make up for being short, unattractive, and maybe lacking in some other departments. Speaking of Puss in Boots, he has his own movie now, and it includes a joke only grown-ups will get. There's an old man who starts explaining a legend to him, and the info about the legend is tattooed all over his body. He starts talking about magical objects called golden eggs, and begins to unzip his pants, only stopping when Puss in Boots yells at him not to show the golden eggs. That's because the tattoo of the eggs is clearly down in the old guy's nether region. And since we've been talking so much about Puss in Boots, go ahead and drop a hashtag Puss in the comments to show him some love. In Shrek 3, Puss in Boots is at it again, this time telling a female cat that she's the love of his life. But then, he says the exact same thing to a bunch of other cats. And of course, they all come running his way and he takes off. Yep, Puss in Boots is one slick, shameless womanizer. If there's one movie loaded with these kinds of jokes, it's The Incredibles. And one of the funniest moments happens when the villain syndrome captures the Incredibles family. He's shocked to find out that Mr. Incredible married Elastigirl, and when he looks at their kids, he says the two of them must have been busy. If they'd spent more time watching Netflix or something, Violet probably would have been an only child. When Elastigirl goes back into action and breaks into Syndrome's base, she stops in front of a mirror and checks herself out. And to be more specific, she takes a good long look at her own butt. Honestly, maybe she should have done that before leaving the house, right? And speaking of that, another super funny and kind of adult what-so moment happens when Mr. Incredible walks past Elastigirl at home and you hear a slap. Yep, he totally smacked her butt. And to get back at him, Elastigirl stretches her arm and gives him a slap on the butt too, but from across the room. These two were seriously made for each other. To get this joke from Encanto, you don't just have to be an adult, you also need to understand some Spanish. During a family dinner, Mirabel tells her dad what she discovered about Bruno. It was supposed to be a secret, but then they realized Dolores, with her super hearing, heard everything. And that's when Mirabel's dad says miércoles. Now sure, todos marcoles means Wednesday, but in this case, it's not about the day of the week. It's being used as a softer version of a Spanish curse word. It sounds just like a popular swear word, so Spanish-speaking adults totally caught the joke.
Miércoles.
Do you like Kung Fu Panda? The Dragon Warrior franchise is epic, and since it's from DreamWorks, of course the movies are packed with these kinds of jokes. Like the scene where Tigress does a split and skillfully smashes the discs thrown at her by Shifu, but it kind of seems like Po isn't really paying attention to her skills. He's more focused on her rear. Later in the sequel, Po finds out he was adopted and tells Tigress, but she's not that surprised, and for a pretty obvious reason, Po is a panda and his adoptive dad is a goose. So yeah, it was kind of clear from the first movie that they weren't biologically related, at least to adults and sharp-eyed kids. In Ralph Breaks the Internet, Ralph and Vanellope travel into the online world, and you can imagine that leads to a bunch of hilarious moments about social media, and some of them only older viewers will catch. One scene shows an online ad for a single woman looking for companionship. The best part, the picture is of Cass, Hero's aunt from Big Hero 6. The joke is that the ad is obviously fake, and it's probably just a virus trap for desperate single guys who click on it. But instead of clicking on a sketchy ad and getting a virus, why not just hit that subscribe button and get daily videos about your favorite animated movies? Moving on to Frozen, Olaf also delivers one of those cheeky adult jokes. And of course, it would be him, right? In a scene where a group of people get scared upon seeing the main characters, Olaf tries to explain himself by saying he finds clothes restricting, even though no one actually asked. The truth is, he thought they were scared because he was naked, even though the fact that he's a living snowman is way creepier. Toy Story is one of Pixar's all-time classics and still getting sequels to this day. And even this masterpiece isn't free of some adult-only humor. One moment like that appears during the credits of Toy Story 2, where Stinky Pete, the movie's villain, is seen chatting with two Barbies, asking if they'd like a major role in Toy Story 3. Kids might not catch it, but it's clear Pete is hitting on them and using the promise of a big role to try and win them over. You probably remember that in the first Toy Story, Woody hated Buzz Lightyear. Unless, of course, you've never seen the movie. And it wasn't just casual dislike. Woody even says he could describe Buzz with a word he's not allowed to use because there are preschool toys nearby. Preschool toys are basically kid toys, which means Woody can't say it out loud because it's way too inappropriate for young ears. The jokes in this franchise are brilliant because they always use toy-related metaphors to talk about real-life stuff. Like this next one. There's another moment when the piggy bank ham is walking around and suddenly his cork pops off, making all the coins inside him fall out. He gets super embarrassed and tells everyone not to look while he plugs the cork back in, clearly implying that the cork is like his indosimiwuswo underwear. And without it, he's totally exposed. Cars has this type of humor too, like when Lightning McQueen notices that Sally has a tattoo on her backside. Oh, when he asks about it, Sally gets super embarrassed and speeds off, or rather, hits the gas. That's because the spot where the tattoo is placed would be the car version of her butt. But the most awkward scene has to be when McQueen goes to talk to the sheriff and ends up seeing more than he should. Because he finds the sheriff in the middle of a medical exam, McQueen ends up seeing the sheriff's undercarriage, which in this universe is clearly something very private. And to make things worse, the sheriff goes, "Hope you liked what you saw," just to mess with the poor guy. And hey, if you want to keep the fun going, just click one of the videos we've left on your screen. Thanks for watching and see you next time.